All right, James, man. I was checking some of the messages. Want to shout out Grave Wax, CP Webster. Hope you had fun in Crete, mate. Black Master Roshi. Oh.
Thanks for the mead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
As you can see, we haven't kicked that habit. So, and we had a question from Red Green Nationalist. I've heard this dude mention it. He, for War Strike, he does entropy stuff with them. So shout out to them. He asked about the Irish sea slave trade in the Viking era. Now everyone knows that the Vikings were all over Ireland back in the day. I remember one of my favorite monster movies, Gorgo, mentions in the beginning, the little kid mentions the legend of when the Vikings would raid the southern Irish coast. This big dragon came out of the sea and kicked their asses and saved the Irish people. Of course, I don't know why I always remember that, but obviously there was a slave trade. I mean, with the Irish, being done to the Irish by those Viking pirate scum. So, what are your thoughts? What do you know of it? What do you have to say about that?
The Irish sea slave trade, up to the Viking Age, was dominated by the Irish raiding Wales, Cornwall, Scotland, and Anglesey. I'm sure.
I thought we were all Celtic brothers.
I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. The most notorious were called the Dubliners.
Oh no, not them.
Now the
Pogues.
Historically, they show up even as a racial group, and I would say one of my favorite slave raids was done by Agricola when he was just commanding a legion, and he had his men swim from northern England out to the island of Anglesey where the Druids were, to go out there and wipe them out. Now,
who was that? Was that a Roman or?
That's Agricola. Was the father-in-law of the still extant historian Tacitus.
Oh, damn! So the Romans are mixed up in this.
Okay, and Tacitus was serving under him as a lower level officer. He ended up marrying the man's daughter. Now, in the Viking Age, a lot of the coasts were dominated by monasteries, and
Book of Kells.
Iceland, which was known to Pythias the Greek in 336 BC and was mentioned by Agricola in 80 BC. This was inhabited by monks, as far as we know. The Romans even conquered the Orkneys. The Orkney Islands.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, that's done. You have to get a new one. So the period that saw the Christian expansion after St. Patrick in Ireland also saw monks migrating to Iceland. That was one of the first places that the Vikings hit. They wiped out those monasteries. And then they began raiding Ireland for slave girls. And Iceland went from becoming a monastery to a breeding farm for Vikings, where these big blonde dudes married and or just forcibly inseminated crazy green-eyed red-headed Irish bitches. Okay, and what we get out of that is the strongest men in the world. Okay. Still come from Iceland for the for the strength competitions.
All those dudes.
Okay, so
Magnuson.
In 1013, the Irish throw off the yoke barely at the Battle of Clontarf, and by 1077, the newly Christian king of Norway has sent crusaders to Vinland and Newfoundland to hunt down the heathen Thor cultists who have fled from Greenland to North America. There's a crusade against, it's a Norwegian crusade. There's some Goths, some Danes involved in this, but on the way back from trying to kill these heathens, these Christian Vikings, Norwegians, and Danes and Goths, they get shipwrecked on the Irish coast.
Oh no.
And they get enslaved and or murdered by the people that they spent so much time. So there was a lot of give and take. If you look at a 700-year period, who's enslaving who? The Scandinavians are generally the ones we respect the most. I know
You do. Not me.
Agricola was of the opinion, well, and they had their own name for slaves, which was not slaves. That was thrall. And we get enthralled
Right. Right.
from this. And the plantation America style of slavery is really a cross between the Nordic thraldom and the residual Roman style of servile slavery, which made it particularly virulent. You combine two slave traditions in one. Now, Agricola was of the opinion that Rome would have held on to England longer if it would have, and he predicted this ahead of time, if it would have conquered Ireland. He actually had a deposed Irish prince in his retinue. That there was a lot of, you had pirates going back and forth between Ireland and Scotland, which they were calling Caledonia at the time, very often, and there were a lot of merchants that operated in Ireland. He was of the opinion that one legion could have held Ireland, and it would have made it easier for those three legions to hold England, because the Caledonians would have nowhere to go to their friends across the channel. The people that eventually took this advice were the Normans.
Right.
They didn't give the Scots anywhere to go because they went over and they took Ireland. That was really the key to permanently subjugating Scottish Highlands, was to take Ireland and to get their refuge where their cousins were into their orbit.
Now I have a question, and I think I know the answer, but like I don't know, I can't know everything. Right? The Romans really never took any part of Ireland, right?
No, and they decided not to for various reasons. And most of the reasons why the Roman Empire did not make conquests when it could was because the emperors hated and feared successful generals, because actual combat was supposed to be the purview of the emperor. But when the emperor was a coward and he didn't live up to his father's image, like Domitian could not live up to his father Vespasian in any way, he knew that people didn't respect him because he was just a decadent guy. Then he wouldn't let Agricola take Ireland because he was in great fear. Eventually, he had Agricola poisoned. He actually gave up frontier territory in the Balkans and in Germany rather than take the risk of more legions respecting Agricola. So he had Agricola killed instead. That's how that empire worked. And it had an increasingly rapid turnover of emperors because of that. This fear of the emperor was eventually used by the money men behind the scenes to continually cycle out the emperors very quickly. And that was only solved by Nerva when he nominated Trajan as his successor and stepped down.
Interesting.
And ushered in the Pax Romana, 80 years apiece.
I gotta say, I mean, it's very impressive, the idea that, you know where Rome and Italy is, that you would have these dudes like kicking ass and like taking like the British islands so far away. It's pretty impressive. But as you can see, you couldn't take all of Germania, and you couldn't take Ireland or whatever.
Well,
it's interesting.
Scotland, Caledonia, was not taken by Romans. It was taken by a Roman general, Agricola, who had his 3 legions stay back in camp, and he went out with 9,000 Germans and Bretons and himself and a couple of Roman officers, and they beat 30,000 Caledonians. And the Roman legionaries, yes,
Wow.
and the Roman legionaries just stayed back. That was just his check.
I guess, right.
That was his second line of defense. The furthest extent of the Roman Empire was achieved by just using the Roman legionaries as siege troops and garrison troops, and you used barbarian auxiliaries
Smart.
to actually fight the other barbarians.
Yeah.
But the Roman general, to get this done, he had to act like a Germanic chieftain and go out and lead in the front. And the Caledonian chieftain, who lost his country and his life, gave a speech that Agricola's son-in-law remembered, and that was the man at Mount Grampus, Grappus, who said, they, Rome, create a desolation and call it peace.
Oh, wow.
And that was actually remembered and recorded by the people that defeated him.
Yeah, well, made a wasteland and call it peace.
So you had a battle between heroes,
Right.
deciding the borders of a non-heroic empire.
Yeah. Isn't that always the way?
Yeah.
All right, man. So Red Green Nationalist, that's for you, brother.
Thank you.
And all
Hopefully I touched on something.
all my
you're concerned
watchers.
about.
Remember, any question you have, I mean, James is, I'm not gonna see James till September, right? But any questions you have in the interim period, if you put them in my comments, when he comes back, I'll make a list of them. I'll snapshot them. I'll make a list, and we'll make videos of them. So, because I'm here, you know what? I really appreciate, we both appreciate the interaction. I know people say, "Oh, the community." I mean, come on, come look at us. But you know what I'm saying?
No, it's the community.
The community, right? I'm saying, but like the comments, I value the comments. I value the comments and the questions more than the views and all that. So you can say it's a community, whatever.
And check out the Ghetto Citronella candle.
Oh, that's right, Dollar Tree, Citronella. I think it's worth it.
Okay.
It's not getting me high or nothing, but so, all right.
Thanks, sir.